Howdy folks, I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist. Feeling jolly today as we are moving into what is today, Tuesday, the 28th of October, 2025, for a neutrino forecast. So let's get into the details here. Golly, alright, I'm going to show you the details, and I actually want to talk about them just a little bit today before I start telling interesting stories. So in the fourth line, of course, we are moving and getting ready to go into the juxtaposition in preparation for that left angle, but we're still feeling the fumes, the dregs of the right angle here. So let's look at that. I'm going to switch the camera. All right, so here we are looking at the journal entry. I'm trying to get some focus here on this. All right. And we see the numbers there. Come on now. There we go. And then we can come over here and see what's coming on here with our transit energies. We can see that we're going to have a connection being made here. That is, of course, the improviser that we've had so often in the past bit, just because we have the 20th gate being activated by Uranus here, and also we're going through 57 in Venus. So that's still going to be happening for a while longer. We're only in 57.3, but today we will be moving through 4 and 5. So you can see that sort of energy going on there. All right, and let's come over here and look at this, where you can see that on the juxtaposition cross, we have one person actually listed in 64 keys, the Nobel Prize winner, Dmitry Andreevich Muratov. All right, and here's the information about the juxtaposition crossed, really about pushing those risks. And then we come here to holding on, which is all about that risky behavior there. And we'll come over and look at 27 for that generosity there. Boom. And also looking at this page here. And I am going to talk about these details just a little bit, but if you want to read it for yourself, there you can. I have been warned to try to keep the microphone from getting too close when I'm talking about, when I'm switching the camera and talking about things, blah, blah, blah. I hope it's not too freaky. But there are things I still have to learn about that, and it's a learning process. So here we are in it together. So if you can put up with me in that way, we'll get to some interesting things here. So there were a few things I wanted to say, and one of them specifically that I wanted to talk about was in this 27th line. It's kind of interesting. I have forgotten to mention it for the past 2 days, so at least I'm getting it here before we get out completely of the right angle. And that is the 27th gate's connection with physical illness. Especially since back when we were in line 2, I noticed that at least 2 of my followers carry that 27 line 2. So I wanted to give a little information for those folks. And it's about health, generosity, transmission of diseases, and holding of diseases. And of course, here in the fourth line explanation, it gives an overview of that. So I thought, okay, let's take advantage of that and look at that for a second. So it says, there are 3 kinds of illnesses rooted in the 27th gate. The 27th gate, of course, is this gate right here. It's coming out of the sacral center. So we're looking at the energy for caring and nurturing the young. Yeah. And this is, of course, our Earth activation. So this is an activation the entire world is going to be feeling and looking at for just a minute while we go through it, while the babies who are being born now will be carrying this energy as a theme for their entire lives. Speaking of which, we are going to swing back around to Paris Paloma that I mentioned yesterday. Fascinating. I just love this job. Okay, so this is our, of course, we have the mirror here. This channel here, 59.6 to the emotional center, is, of course, connecting with how we connect sexually. And this one is the intimacy of how we connect through nurturing, right? So we're talking about the nature of nurturing in this 27th gate and what that's like. Now, back in line 2, what he was saying is, these are nourishers who don't know how much they can nourish. For those, like I said, specifically because there are 2 of them I know that are carrying the 27.2. And here we go. Weakness that in the detriment can sap the strength and power of others, although I think neither of these particular people carry the detriment. That is how far it can go when you don't set good boundaries for yourself as a nourisher. You always have to remember to nourish yourself first. Remember, that was the lesson of the first line in this gate. But they don't naturally have any sense of what the limit is, and that is why they can become very unhealthy, because they have the nourishment being sucked out of them, and people are just taking from them and not recognizing that that can make them sick. All right, so then in the third line, we have, of course, a very deep altruism happening. Here we go. So he says, the second line wants more and more and more from the very same person, as an example, or the very same person, one particular person, will sap them over and over again. Or the third line wants more from you, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one after that. So there's a difference in the process. And then when we come to the fourth line, he does an overview on it, and he says, in the second line, illness is built right in through not recognizing what the barriers are. When you get to the third line, the illness is secondary. It comes from the ordeal of trying to find the right quality of life and stumbling on along the way, and when you stumble, you can really get hurt and ill. Then when it comes to this fourth line, okay, that's what we're looking at today, it's about bringing the wrong people into your life. This brings disease into your life. This line is notorious for sexual transmission. Somebody comes into your life, whoop, they give you gonorrhea. This is about bringing the wrong people into your life through indiscriminate sharing. Just because you can care doesn't mean that you have to care for everyone. And of course, that is the detriment of this line, which happens in Mars. Okay, we're not feeling that today, but the people who are born with that will have the capacity to carry that detriment. And then he says an interesting thing here about just general historical kinds of fact checking. And I love these kind of details. So he says, he's mentioning here the incarnation, the Global Incarnation Index, which is the other book that I use as a resource material, and I showed that to you right there. So he is talking about that, but he's written this before he finishes the index, and he says it's, of course, part of the Cross of the Unexpected. And the relevant part here is he says the 27 line 4 is one of the great classic lines of the unexpected. Many years ago, Martin Grassinger made some charts for me of the discovery of Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. In all of those cases, the nodes were in 27 line 4 and 28 line 4. When the comet Shoemaker-Levy banged into Jupiter, the nodes were in 27.4 and 28.4. So this time that we're in right now, it's coincidentally, the time of me really experimenting with shifting and the unexpected. And we come around to the tie that I chose randomly. I chose this tie by reaching my hand into a box and seeing a piece of color that really appealed to me and pulling out the tie. And the tie, unexpectedly, came as a set with all these other ties. It's like, I don't know, a dozen ties, all in purple. And this one, the one that I want, which I could tell by feel was Jerry Garcia tie with our little Easter egg hunt. The unexpected surprise is offered there in that. When I first picked this, I was like, Easter? Why is this relevant? But now I see. Oh, okay. The little surprise, the unexpected, the little Easter egg hunt. And Jerry called this tie, George, can I keep him? On the little bunny. It's so cute. Anyway, that's just me. The unexpected is definitely part of this process. And my only point there was, yeah, I am finding it very interesting and somewhat coincidence, not coincidental, that this the main bulk of me figuring out how I wanted to shift these transits to make them more interesting for me to give, and that's really what's necessary in order for me to keep on giving them, has been during this cross of unexpected. So there it is. Oh, and by the way, it's kind of interesting to me because looking at my life cycles, I see that in the Chiron phase, so basically in my 50s, which I am in, leveling up, I am going to be really moving into the cross of the unexpected, which will be also entailing somehow a shift for home bases from America to Europe. So that will be quite exciting and also carry much unexpected to it. All right, so there was something I wanted to say about 28, line 4 as well, and I'm just going to read the things that I had already highlighted here. These people, so they have the ability, it says, through whatever means to keep their grip, yeah? To hold on to things, to hold on to the struggle, to hold on to what is of value to them to struggle for. They hold on to their struggle. Nothing can pull them from that. Of course, we are looking at the nature of the fourth line in general. Everywhere where we have a fourth line activation in our charts, that's these little bitty numbers wherever they show up. They're indicating that the energy there is going to be very fixed. Everything about the fourth line is fixed. I just have to get it across and in a certain way. So what they are fixed on is exploiting opportunities, usually for the greater good. A depth of intuition at its best in struggle and often of value to others. That's, of course, on one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum would be a depth of intuition that's stubbornly selfish in its capacity to hold on. So they don't necessarily want to work with somebody. They have to deal with their struggle. It says the people with this energy can be infuriating if you do not understand their nature because they get fixed and obsessed with their particular struggle. It has to do with a certain thing for them. Oh, and here was the interesting piece. Everything about the 28 in the end is about winning. All right? You're taking a risk, and it's because you want to win. Whereas when we were looking at the 32, what you're doing is not necessarily to win, but to succeed, or looking at it the other way, to not fail. So all of these things are, we're looking at 3 channels here between the root and the spleen, and how that root gives us pressure to succeed in certain ways. And in this way, it's about taking a risk and then being up for a fight in order to be able to get that risk made worthwhile for you. And he says this thing, it's kind of interesting here, it's cute. He says you have to win, but the winning is about winning for yourself in the sense that your life is worthwhile. It's hard to kill these people. There's a deep focus here on holding on in the struggle until their very last breath in order to figure out, yes, I was worthwhile. Then they get the joke and die. The joke is that the game is fixed. And I have to say, anybody who talks about in the very end of the thing it being a joke, they have a vote from me. Because in my explorations and studies in what is weird, what is wild, I know I don't look that wild just sitting here, but I promise you, I'm pretty wild. And when I've come to the end of that journey in various times, I just laugh. I just laugh and laugh and laugh because it is such a big joke. Such a it's 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 ironic, it's funny, it's interesting, and for all those who feel the pain of it, and I feel the pain of it too, I promise. It only hurts when we're alive. It only hurts when we're here. It only hurts for a minute, right? In the end, when we're ready to go, when the journey is over, it's okay. It was worth it. And it's kind of funny to start to see the larger picture of how we fit in to the whole thing of what's going on. It's hilarious. I've laughed and laughed and laughed. I've laughed for hours over this. It's great. Except that the people who are around me are not usually laughing so much. They're usually going, what is going on? It can be exasperating. I know. I'm sorry for those people who've had to do that. But there it is. All right, so let's get through all of those things. I did want to make a note because I discovered in my what is it, the responses, the comments, that I had my first hater. I'm so thrilled. And very interesting, the thing that they chose to hate on was aura size. Of all things that I would have thought would not be controversial, but my partner says that aura size is still a controversial subject. Auras themselves are a controversial subject. So okay, well, but I realized that in the short, I did not explain one tiny thing, and that is that when it comes to aura size, generally, yeah, the explanations say that, our auras are probably about 6 feet out from us. And I have learned, and this piece came from Drunvalo Melchizedek of The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life, that the aura is actually significantly larger, looking to be about twice that size. But of course, you always have to take into account the mathematical aspect of it, which is a parabola. So many things. So you have the field of the greatest impact being directly around the physical body, and then as we get farther and farther away from the physical body to the edge of that aura, of course you're going to be feeling it very lightly. So like when I'm talking to people about oh golly, I got an itch on my back, about sleeping in their own rooms, that is it's not like you have to be sleeping in a space that where you hold by yourself 25 feet, in this circle around you. But you really do need to try to get people out of at least 6 feet around you. So I know that a lot of people are apartment dwellers. My daughters had some concerns about that when they moved into single bedroom apartments, because obviously there's somebody living on the other side of that wall. But I think they do try to organize those so that people are not sleeping directly on either side of a wall, so that you would theoretically have someone within that inner circle of your aura. So just because you have an influence, say 12 feet away from you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're having a big influence 12 feet away from you. Although I will say I have definitely noticed when I'm on a power up that my influence, the influence of my aura, I can see it actually traveling, because I see people stopping and turning around to look at me at a certain distance, and I see that wave actually passing in front of me, and it's often like a block ahead of me. So that's vastly larger than the normal size, but it shifts, you know? So anyway, I'm very often aware of people who are camping across the street from me, and that's, golly, I'm not good with measuring distances, but that's got to be 100 feet, I would say. At least 60, 75. Anyway, it's a good distance, and I definitely feel the aura of those people, and I'm sure that were they sensitive enough, they would be able to feel my aura. They definitely feel my aura when I come and camp in their sites with them. So, all right, anyway, moving on. Let's pick a lovely little phrase, inspiration, aphorism. This is one of my favorite games as well. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Our culture has accepted two huge lies. One, if you disagree with someone's lifestyle, you must fear or hate them. How interesting, talking about the hater. How nice. Two, to love someone means you agree with everything they believe, say, or do. Both are nonsense. You don't have to compromise convictions to be compassionate. Dave Chappelle. Oh, well, thank you, Dave Chappelle. And it's true. And I am absolutely compassionate for this poor person who believed that they needed to be hating on me just because they didn't believe with me about aura sizes. I'm just like, geez Louise, if that's where I'm losing you, buckle up, Buttercup, because there's so much more controversial shit going on here. Anyway, moving on. Let me tell some interesting stories, continuation of yesterday, where I was talking about time travel, and there was one more thing that I wanted to say about that, specifically because I was talking with a friend last week, and she was bitching in a friendly sister way about how quickly time moves, how little time there is in a day to get something done. And something that I did not mention to her at the time, but I will mention now, and is probably interesting for, or at least, I don't know, interesting, but it's interesting to me, and may be useful to know for a lot of people, is how things are moving in our universe, and that actually time is in general faster, although of course it is also true that time is plastic. The time actually does move faster when we're having fun, and move slower when we're stuck in some dumb class and we're bored. But the whole universe is actually moving faster now, because it's not a circle, it's an oval. And what happens is, when we're in those times when we're on the long side of the oval, time will move more slowly. But as we swing around the corner, which we are now doing, astronomically speaking, when you swing around the corner, time actually does move a little faster. I mean, think about that. When you like that. So we are in one of those swing around the corner times in the precession of the equinox, which is like a 27,000 year cycle or something like that. So there it is. Time is actually plastic in a way that is not indicated by Newtonian physics. So when you're feeling like time is rushing by, it actually is. And the interesting thing for me in that is that when I meet somebody, I'm often about, here we are, you and me, in this moment, sharing time together. And we actually have, if we're not being recorded, just the recording of that person and me. And I very seldom find somebody who has, in that moment, a true recognition of the now, of of how magical it is that out of all the beings in the entire universe, it's just you and me here in this moment. And if we're not clocking time, just enjoying it, we can actually stop it for a while. You and I in a bubble, being us together, and everything that's going on in the rest of the world doesn't even matter. We can just be here now, enjoying this time, enjoying the fact that we found each other just by some click, click, click of magic, and have that time, enjoy what we have, and then move on to other things and be able to have that memory to look back on. I think it's fascinating. But that leads me to talking about, yes, the glitchy matrix and the multiple realities. Okay, we can get into that a little bit. I don't know how interested people are in this, and it's not directly connected to human design, although it kind of is in some ways. But it's things that I have discovered by decades of being out there on the edges of what's capable, discovering what's real, and having lived in some of those really less probable realities. Some of those realities were really friggin' scary. I mean, really friggin' scary. And it taught me overall that kind of what's happening is when we're looking at the nature of individual reality versus joint reality. This is kind of where things get weird, especially, well, even in what Seth was talking about. And there were 2 books that Jane wrote about those subjects, of course. The Nature of Personal Reality is the one that I started off with. And The Nature of Mass Reality was one that I read, but I was just at the time just like not really getting what it was about, not understanding. And now I'm starting to get it a little bit more. I didn't understand how it was because I didn't understand that there could be multiple realities running concurrently. But now I've started to see that kind of what's happening is we have, it's like, well, it's like they're running most of them in a mass in one line in the center, yeah? But we have all these little floofy ones hanging out on the edges going, and they're all weaving in and out of each other, right? So the interesting thing is how it becomes practical. How do they weave in and out of each other, and how can you tell when they're weaving in and out of each other, or how can you tell when they're switching? And the thing that I've come to realize is that switching happens in the places where the realities all join. Well, where do they join? They actually join in the places where we're traveling back and forth, and that place remains stable, like a staircase, which means I want to talk to whoever wrote that scene in The Matrix. Whose idea was it to make that scene in The Matrix where they're walking up and down, they're walking up the stairs, they're in the building, they've like collected Neo and they're taking him with them or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the piece was in that movie, but in that scene, Neo notices a cat walking by, and then it kind of glitches and he sees the cat walking by again. Well, okay, that's the way that they depicted the fact that the realities shifted, that there was some kind of they call it a glitch in the Matrix, but what it is, according to my understanding, is there was a shift in the reality streams. And I discovered this the hard way on one of my power-ups when I was trying to get upstairs for a bath. And I was going up and down and up and down, and every time I was going up and down the stairs, I was noticing differences in the details of the reality when I came back down. That was freaky. And also differences in, differences like the level of the cat food in the bowl. And you might say, oh, the cat just ate the food. But no, the amount of cat food in the bowl was sometimes increasing as I went downstairs. And I would go downstairs and there would be things on my bed that were not there before. A book I hadn't seen, a new book I had never seen before on the end of my bed, which I was like, dude, I mean, we don't change our bed that often, but every few weeks for sure. How could this book possibly be there? So I was confronted with things that to the logical mind were just not possible. And then I started realizing that as I was carrying my phone up and down the stairs, that it was glitching every time. And I was like, wait a second, why is my technology glitching right now? And I realized that my phone, which is a piece of technology traveling with me up and down the stairs, was being forced to glitch because it was having to transfer between the reality streams, and the phone had to be, it's zeros and ones. It's not just, oh, she's just imagining something, she's seeing something. Okay, so I recognize that I'm talking about freaky shit that pretty much nobody understands, and that's fine, but I thought, well, it's fascinating to me, and if anybody has any experience with what I'm talking about, by all means, let me know. And it's fine if you write in and say, oh, you're crazy, you need therapy, but, well, had it over and over and over again, and it's all right. Everybody needs therapy, and everybody has problems, but there's also such a thing as figuring out and being an explorer, a pioneer on the edges of what's possible and on the edges of realities. And that is where I have been. Many times I have been alone there, and that's fine, but I'm pretty sure that eventually I will find somebody who has some kind of experience with this and knows what I'm talking about, and then they will connect with me and maybe we'll be able to explore even farther than I have been able to explore alone. So until then, it's just interesting stories, and if you don't like listening to it, by all means, don't, right? What's the song? If you don't happen to like me, pass me by. So, if you're not passing me by, that's great. Come on back tomorrow. We'll talk about more weird shit, and we'll talk about the energy, and hopefully I'll be able to show you my freaky, weird witch hat that is in construction now. I'm so excited to have a project to work on here. So take care of yourselves. Oh, and maybe tomorrow we can talk about, oh, no, real quick right now. I want to talk about Paloma. Paris Paloma. What an interesting person. She, I looked up her chart, the probable chart of Paris Paloma, and when I did, I found out that I'm always looking for people with the provocation saddle when they're being particularly, especially provocative in their songs, in their art, that kind of thing. And she doesn't have any provocation saddle, although she could, of course, been conditioned by somebody else who had it in her natal family. But what she did have was no less than 3 actual activations in common with the transit of today. Very interesting, including that 27 line 4, that really, really unusual, extreme possibility for the unexpected. Also the 60.6 she's carrying, and the 14.1 for today, which is, of course, oh, and with the, this one's, what is it? Oh, it's a down arrow. Okay, let me see on that. She has the exaltation, which is the energy to release feelings. And that's 41. No, that's not it. 14. Where was it? Oh, yeah, that's her actual sun activation. This is her highest activation. Very interesting. And that is the knowledge to use resources for achieving higher principles. How nice is that? So, very interesting, and I would definitely say if Paris Paloma finds her way to me, I will definitely give her a free reading to be able to share some interesting information that I have about that chart. Very, very cool. But I definitely recommend going to check her out. Speaking of which, I forgot a song for today. Oh well, but going on, we'll all good things in all good time. I'll see if I can pick out a song for tomorrow. See if something strikes me. So until tomorrow, take care of yourselves. We'll come back for a little more crazy fun and some details about the energy that's wandering around in the whole world for all of us to feel. Bye.